Here's a strange promise. The most freeing thing you can do in trading is to take away your own freedom. To sit down in advance when a market is closed and your mind is calm, and write rules that your future self is not allowed to break. It sounds like a prison. It is actually the opposite. Because the trader with no written plan is not free, he only feels free. In every moment that matters, when the price is moving and his heart is pounding, he is not choosing. He's being driven by fear, by greed, by whatever emotion is loudest in that second. He calls it flexibility. It's really just his feelings holding the wheel. The trader with a written plan, treated like law, has done something profound. He has made his decisions once in a state of clarity, so that in the storm he doesn't have to decide at all. He just executes. That's not a cage. That's the only real freedom there is in this game. Freedom from the version of you that shows up when money is on the line. And before we go further, I want to name why you can't just decide well in the moment, because it is not a character flaw and it is not weakness. When the price is moving against you and your heart is pounding, that is not you being undisciplined. That is your nervous system running a survival program that is hundreds of thousands of years old. Your brain did not evolve to watch numbers on a screen represent money. It evolved to keep you alive, and to your ancient wiring, a threat is a threat, whether it is a predator in the grass or a red number eating your account. So it floods you with the same chemistry, the same urgency, the same overwhelming need to make the danger stop. You're not a bad trader when you panic. You are a human being whose protection system is firing exactly as it was designed to, in an environment it was never designed for. And here is the key that unlocks this whole video. You cannot out-willpower a nervous system that believes it is saving your life. You can't. What you can do is build a structure decided in calm that does the deciding for you when the ancient alarm takes over. That structure is the plan. The plan is not discipline. It is how you route around a brain you are never going to beat in a moment. Read the interviews in Market Wizards, and you'll notice something almost boring in its consistency. Nearly every great trader has a plan and treats it as non-negotiable. Not a vague idea. A defined set of rules for what they trade, when they enter, how much they risk, and exactly when they get out. Bruce Kovner was explicit that he decided where he would exit before he ever entered every time, because the moment before entry is the last moment you can think clearly. Once you're in, he understood, your objectivity is gone. Larry Hite built an entire firm on rules so rigid that he said the computer, not his mood, made the decisions, and he was proud of it because he knew his mood was the enemy. These are not rigid people by nature. They are people who learned, usually through a blow-up, that in the heat of a live trade, the human mind cannot be trusted, so they outsource the decisions to a plan made in calm. The plan is not a limitation on a great trader. It is the thing that lets a flawed human execute a real edge. And notice how these traders got their plans, because it's almost never by choice. It's by catastrophe. Paul Tudor Jones didn't build his obsessive risk rules because a book told him to. He built them out of the wreckage of a cotton trade that nearly ended his career, a trade where he had no real plan, just conviction, and wrote it down into a 60 or 70% loss. Michael Marcus didn't start risking small, defined amounts because it sounded wise. He did it after blowing up repeatedly, betting everything on feel. The pattern in Market Wizards is almost universal. The plan is what's left standing after the blow-up. These traders learned, at enormous cost, that their in-the-moment judgment could not be trusted with real money, and the plan was the structure they built so it could never happen again. Which means you have a choice most of them didn't. You can learn this lesson the cheap way by writing a plan now, before the blow-up, instead of the expensive way, in the ashes of an account. The plan is the scar the wizards paid for. You get to have the scar without the wound, if you're humble enough to write it down before the market forces you to. Mark Douglas explained precisely why this matters, and it's the core of everything. He said that in the moment of a live trade, you cannot rely on yourself to be objective, because the market has the power to generate emotional information that overwhelms your rational mind. When price moves against you, you don't calmly reassess. You feel fear, and fear does not want the best decision. It wants relief. When price moves for you, you feel greed or the terror of giving it back. And those don't want the best decision either. So the idea that you'll figure it out as it happens is a fantasy. The version of you that shows up mid-trade is not the calm analyst who studied the chart. It's a frightened animal looking for an exit from a feeling. Douglas's insight was that the solution isn't to try harder to be calm in the moment. That's willpower, and willpower loses. The solution is to make the decision when you are calm, write it down, and then in the moment simply obey the earlier, wiser you. The plan is how the calm you protects the account from the panicked you. Let me make this physical, because it is the difference between understanding it and actually using it. The next time price stabs toward your stop, notice what happens in your body before any thought arrives. Your chest tightens. Your breathing goes shallow. There is a hot, urgent pressure that says do something now. That is not analysis. That is the oldest alarm in your brain reading the falling price as a predator closing in and firing the exact same response your ancestor felt when the grass moved. For them, that response was perfect. It kept them alive. For you, staring at a chart, it is catastrophic because it screams at you to seek relief, and relief means closing the trade at the worst possible moment or ripping out the stop so the pain stops. Your survival brain does not know the difference between a lion and a drawdown. It only knows threat, and it will hijack you in milliseconds, long before the calm, rational part of you even wakes up. This is why willpower fails. You are not fighting laziness. You are fighting 100,000 years of wiring that is faster and stronger than your conscious mind. And that is exactly why the decision has to be made before the alarm ever sounds, written down when the lion is not in the room. So let's kill the belief that keeps traders planless. The belief that a good trader is flexible, adaptive, able to read the market in real time and adjust. It sounds sophisticated. It's usually a disguise for having no rules. Here's the test. When a trader without a plan adapts, watch which direction he always adapts. He widens the stop when he's losing, never tightens it. He takes the quick profit when he's nervous, never lets it run. He adds to the loser, never to the winner. His flexibility is not responsiveness to the market. It is perfectly predictable surrender to whichever fear is active. Real flexibility, the kind the wizards have, exists inside a plan, not instead of one. You can have rules for different market conditions. That's plan flexibility. But I'll decide in the moment is not flexibility. It's an unmarked door that your emotions walk through every single time. The plan doesn't make you rigid. It makes your flexibility honest because it's decided in advance instead of rationalized in panic. So what does a real trading plan actually contain? It doesn't need to be complicated. It needs to be complete, and it needs to answer 5 questions before you ever click a button. 1, what do I trade? Which markets, which setups? Define specifically enough that you can tell whether a setup is present or not with no wishful thinking. If you can't look at a chart and say cleanly, this is my setup, or this is not, your plan is too vague and your emotions will fill the gap. A defined setup is the first wall against impulse because it lets you say no to everything that isn't it. 2, when exactly do I enter? The precise trigger. Not when it looks good, That's a feeling, not a rule. A specific condition, a break of this level, a close beyond this line, a signal from this indicator. The entry rule exists so that you are responding to the market's action, not to your own impatience. 3, and this is the one that saves accounts. Where is my exit if I'm wrong? Define before I enter. Kovner's rule. The stop is not where the pain becomes unbearable. It is the price at which your idea is proven wrong, chosen in advance when you could still think. If you can't state where you're wrong before you enter, you don't have trade. You have a hope, and hope has no exit. 4, how much do I risk? The position size defined by a rule, not by how confident you feel. Confidence is exactly the wrong input because you feel most confident right before the trades that hurt most. Larry Height's 1%, or whatever number, lets you be wrong many times in a row without damage. The size is decided by math in advance so that no single trade and no surge of conviction can ever put you in real danger. And 5, where do I take profit, or how do I manage the winner? Whether it's a target, a trailing stop, or a structural exit, it's decided before you're in the emotional grip of an open profit begging you to grab it early. 5 questions. What, when, where if wrong, how much, and where out. Answer them in writing before the trade, and you have removed the 5 places where emotion does its damage. Now here's the hard truth, the one that separates people who have a plan from people who have a document. A plan you don't follow is not a plan. It's decoration. And most traders who have a plan break it constantly, which means they don't actually have one. They have a suggestion they overrule whenever their feelings disagree. Douglas was blunt about this. The goal is not to have rules. It's to become the kind of trader who follows rules, and that's a different and harder thing. Following your own plan, when every emotion screams to break, it is the actual skill of trading. It's harder than analysis, harder than finding setups, because it means sitting in the discomfort of doing what you decided instead of what you feel. And the traders who can do it have a strange superpower. Their results become consistent, not because their plan is perfect, but because they stop sabotaging whatever edge it has. A mediocre plan followed exactly beats a brilliant plan abandoned under pressure every single time. And there's a deeper reason to follow the plan, even when a given trade would have worked better if you'd broken it. And this is subtle, but it's everything. Every time you break your plan and it works out, you have not gotten lucky. You have trained yourself that breaking the plan is okay. You've paid yourself to be undisciplined, and that lesson will cost you a fortune later on the trade where breaking the plan doesn't work out. Douglas made this point sharply. A winning trade that came from breaking your rules is the most expensive kind of win because it reinforces the exact behavior that will eventually destroy you. So the discipline isn't just about this trade. It's about which trader you're becoming, one decision at a time. Follow the plan on the trade where it costs you a little so that you're still following it on the trade where it saves everything. The plan only protects you if you've built the habit of obeying it before the day you desperately need it. There's a hidden benefit to the plan that almost nobody talks about, and it's the one that eventually makes you money. A plan is the only thing that lets you know whether your edge actually works. Think about it. If you trade on feel, changing your approach every session, you can never learn anything because you never did the same thing twice. Your results are noise, a random walk of impulses, and you can't improve what you can't measure. A trader with a written plan is running an experiment. He does the same defined thing across a large sample, and the results actually mean something. If the plan works, he knows to keep going through the losing streaks because he trusts the sample. If it doesn't, he can change one variable and test again like a scientist instead of flailing. Douglas pointed at this. Consistency in behavior is what produces both consistency in results and the ability to genuinely learn. The planless trader is not just emotional. He's also flying blind because he never gives any approach enough repetitions to reveal its truth. The plan turns your trading from a slot machine into a laboratory, and only in a laboratory can you actually get better. Let me tell you what actually happens to a trader when they finally trade a written plan they trust, because it's not what they expect. They expect to feel constrained. Instead, they feel calm. The anxiety that used to sit in their chest during every trade, the constant low-grade question of what do I do now? What do I do now? Goes quiet because the answer is already written. They stop agonizing over every tick because the plan already told them what each tick means and what to do about it. They can even walk away from the screen because the decisions are made and the orders are placed. This is the freedom I promised at the start. Not freedom to do anything in the moment. That freedom was a trap that kept them enslaved to their feelings. The real freedom is freedom from the moment, from the exhausting, losing game of deciding under pressure. The plan carries the decisions so you don't have to, and what's left is a strange, quiet competence that the planless trader, drowning in choices, never gets to feel. So let's make it real. 5 practices. 1. Write your plan tonight on 1 page, answering the 5 questions: what, when, where, if wrong, how much, where out. 1 page, not a manifesto. If it doesn't fit on a page, you won't follow it. The act of writing, it forces the vagueness out of hiding, because a feeling can stay fuzzy in your head, but it cannot survive being written as a rule. 2. Before every single trade, read your plan. Out loud if you can. This sounds excessive, and it's the whole game. The plan only works if it's active in the calm moment before you enter, not buried in a file you wrote once. Reading it reinstalls the calm you at the exact moment the panic you is about to take over. 3. Grade every trade on 1 question only. Did I follow my plan? Yes or no? Not did I make money? A losing trade that followed the plan is a good trade, a green check mark. A winning trade that broke the plan is a failure in disguise, and you mark it as one because you're training the behavior, not chasing the outcome. Keep a broken rules log. Every time you deviate, write 3 things: what you did, what you felt right before, and what you were trying to avoid feeling. Over time, you'll see your specific pattern, the exact emotion that makes you abandon your plan, and once you can see it coming, you can catch it. 5. Change your plan only when the market is closed and you're calm, never mid-trade. A plan is allowed to evolve, but only in the same calm state where it was born, based on a review of many trades, not on the sting of the last one. Changing your plan in the heat of a losing trade isn't improving it. It's breaking it with extra steps. The calm you writes the rules. The calm you revises them. The trading you just obeys. Let me be honest about what following a plan actually feels like at first, because if you expect it to feel good, you'll quit. In the beginning, following your plan will feel like watching yourself lose money you could have saved by breaking it. You'll take the plan stop, and the trade will reverse right after, and your gut will scream "see" if you just held. You'll skip a trade that wasn't your setup, and it'll run without you, and you'll feel like a fool for having rules. This is the gauntlet, and it breaks most people because in the short run, discipline and luck are indistinguishable, and luck is often louder. But here's what's happening underneath. Every time you follow the plan through that discomfort, you're building the one asset that compounds the identity of a trader who follows his plan. And one day, further out than you'd like, the account stops leaking, the wild swings settle, and you realize the plan was working the whole time, quietly, while your feelings were begging you to abandon it. Expect to want to quit right before it clicks. Expect to regress after wins. The wizards felt all of it. They just kept obeying the plan through the stretch where obeying it felt stupid until the day it obviously wasn't. Let's stand back. A written trading plan is not a cage. It's the mechanism that lets a flawed human execute a real edge. Because in the live moment, you cannot be objective. The market generates emotion that overwhelms reason, and a version of you that shows up mid-trade wants relief, not results. The wizards, Kovner and Haidt and the rest, made their decisions in calm and treated the plan as law, not because they were rigid, but because they learned the hard way that their in-the-moment mind was the enemy. The plan answers 5 questions before emotion can corrupt them. What, when, where, if wrong, how much, where out. And the real skill is not writing the plan. It's becoming the kind of trader who follows it. Because a mediocre plan followed exactly beats a brilliant one abandoned under pressure. Douglas gave us the why. The mind can't be trusted in the storm. The plan is how the calm you reaches forward through time and steadies the hand of the panicked you. So here's what I want you to carry out of this. The freedom you've been chasing, the freedom to decide in the moment, to stay flexible, to trust your gut, was never freedom at all. It was your survival brain, that ancient alarm, holding the wheel and calling its own panic instinct. It was the leash your emotions used to walk you into the same mistakes over and over. Real freedom is written down, decided in calm by the version of you the alarm can't reach, and obeyed in the storm. You're not going to out-discipline a nervous system that treats a loss like a lion. But you can hand it a plan and teach your body, one obeyed stop at a time, that a moving chart is not a threat to your life. Tonight, before you trade again, write the 1 page. Answer the 5 questions, and then do the hardest, most freeing thing in all of trading. Follow it, especially when every feeling tells you not to. Tell me in the comments. Do you actually have a written plan, or have you been trading on feel and calling it flexibility? Be honest, because your honesty gives the next trader permission to admit theirs. If this helped, share it with one trader who keeps breaking their own rules and can't understand why, because this is the video that explains it. Subscribe if you want to keep going. We're building the complete picture of how the market really works, one uncomfortable truth at a time. Next time, the single most disturbing pattern in trading, why the smartest, most educated people so often make the worst traders, and how your own intelligence can become the exact thing that destroys your account. Until then, remember, the plan isn't the cage. Trading without one is. Write it down. I'll see you in the next one.